So I just want to give everybody a heads up what's coming down the pike here at Small Biz Hub. We also cross promote events too, so I want to make you guys aware of some other stuff that's going on in the community. Obviously today's Trademark Collider, and then there's an application discovery event at Tech, at the Entrepreneur Center. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those or not, but they take technologies and you go in and you try to make different ideas of how to use those technologies. It's pretty cool. It's after work type of thing, but actually this one's going to be a little earlier in the afternoon. I think it starts at 3. So it's a couple hours. It's a neat event. You get to meet some cool people, and then if in May 25th we're going to have the DCAA Part 1 Accounting System Requirements and Real-Time Labor Evaluation. If you're a Ciber company, Phase 1 winner, 6 months down the road, you got to start looking at becoming DCAA certified. If you want to do business with the government, I'm sure I don't know if you guys are aware of that, right? Yeah, certified, you get time cards, everything. So, and this is a 5-part series of classes that we're going to have here. So we're going to have one a month. So
you certify for phase 2, right? For phase
yes,
2.
for phase 2, yes. Yeah, phase 2 or really any other contract, large contract. So
just a good idea if you want to deal with the government.
exactly.
Already there.
And a lot of people who are already certified still attend just to get brushed up on it, you know, in case there's anything's changed, you know.
Did you change something?
Oh, no. And then on the 2nd, it's a prep for the Wright Dialogue. There's some strange things that Wright Dialogue does. Wright Dialogue is with industry is a event happening in July 19th to the 21st at the Dayton Convention Center. For security purposes, they have you have to fill out a form. It's called a DD 2345, and then so they're going to explain to you how to do that. And there's also then an ECA card. So an ECA card is if you don't have a desk on base, but you still want access as far as like on the computer system and stuff like that. It's a new form of ID. It's not a CAT card, but it's be like for a business development guy or overhead type person that doesn't physically sit on base. So it's kind of it's something new this year, I believe, that's happening. And then we got a propulsion collider on the 9th. Gary Smith, he's got 40 years experience at AFRL. Great guy. He's like a walking, encyclopedia when it comes to UAS systems. So it's be a really good collider if you're in the UAS. I don't know if you are or not. And this is the valuable online resources for small businesses seeking Air Force contracts. It'd be myself and a few other speakers, and we're just going over. There's a lot of different resources available online for Dayton business owners, and so it's like there's probably a dozen sites that you can hit that help you. It's amazing as far as the amount of stuff, tools there are out there, and I'm always surprised the amount of people who aren't aware of them. You know what I mean? I show them, they're like, "Oh, that is so cool!" You know, I didn't realize that was available. So, so we decided to have a collider on that event. So, and then of course the Wright Dialogue within industry, which is sponsored by Dayton Defense. And I believe both of you guys have been here before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. To a collider?
Yeah, first time.
First time? Okay. I'll get you a connections flyer. I don't know if did you have one of these?
I don't think I've got one.
Okay, all right, I'll get you
It's
one.
been a while since I've been
Right. So what this does, it just, obviously you guys signed up on the Collider page, that's our main page. And then, I don't know if you're social media people or not, but, we put a lot of stuff out on Twitter. And then, we're also a major partner with, the CIBR office. We are, I work with them all the time. Matter of fact, I used to work in that office last year. It was a lot of fun. And then, these are some useful sites that will, I'll get you those documents and you guys can have those. And these are some of the sites actually that we will go over in that online resource collider. And if you're not aware, DaytonTechGuide.com is an excellent site. If you do any business in Dayton, Ohio, you've got to be on that site. There's there's like a resource map. You can hit the map and it shows, like, you can click on, give me all the scientific and research companies, and boom, it'll all pop up. And manufacturing companies, you name it, it'll just separate them all out. It's really cool. And that's about it. You signed in, and then I'll just give me your feedback. I'll send you guys a survey in the morning. Let me know what you guys thought. And then if you have any ideas of colliders, let me know, because then we can work together and we can come up with some ideas. We'll get Randy going here. So that's just the clicker right there.
Afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Rand Rader. My official title is Government and Legal Information Coordinator for the University Libraries. My second hat is the local representative for the United States Patent and Trademark Office. One of the first things I like to get going is get the mindset. What does Samson mean to you? If I said that word, Samson, what are some of the things that come to your mind?
The lion and
Lion,
yeah, the big fight.
strength,
Yeah.
I would say long hair.
Here, yeah. Obviously, I would never think that.
So this is the oldest trademark in the United States. What do you think it's for? If I'm using those words, lion, strength, I think the other one was power. It's for rope. So it's kind of suggestive of what the product is. Something strong. Just keep that in mind as I go along. A little bit about the Patent and Trademark Resource Center. Of course, most of what we do now is online, but a lot of people miss that little portion about, wait a minute, what am I doing here? How did I get here? How do I interpret what I'm looking at? And one of the things that I get, every year I'm required to go to the Patent and Trademark Office and go through a week of training. And that is with the examiners, both trademark and patent examiners, chief counsels at the Patent and Trademark Office, who keep us up to date on what's going on, what new laws, what international laws are coming down the pipe, changes in the manner of people searching. Something on the patent side that's going to be starting in 2017 is a new patent database that you can search, a little more robust. Actually has Chinese patents in it that were human translated. One of the big benefits, most patent databases show machine translation. It's going to be really nice, but it's going to have a huge learning curve in order to use it. What they currently have now online for the patent database will go away. It has not been maintained at all since 2010. They add new patents to it, but they haven't updated any of the features of the software. We do have standalone databases.
2018,
2017.
2017.
It's going to be called patent end-to-end. Do not call it Pete. I don't know why they have real trouble with that word, calling it Pete. They don't, it's not Pete, patent end-to-end. Or PET, acronym, I guess. Well, I also provide instruction. Last year I gave about 16 workshops. I give about 8 a year at the university, usually on either Tuesday or Thursday evenings or Saturdays. And I'm also here to warn people about the scammers out there. Wright State gets the scammers. They get the same letters that come out and say, oh, for example, in trademarks, you need to send us $675. We're with the International Trademark Agency and we will give you an international listing. It's just a complete sham. On the patent side, people always get letters even after they get their patent, let us help you get your product to market. Only $5,000. I'm here to warn you. Just don't pay attention to 1-800-INVENT anything. Talk a little bit, just what is a mark? How do you come up with a great mark where your customers will be able to identify you quickly? It's important. How to do the search. It's not just going into this database and writing the words that you think that are in there. It's a little more, there's a little more creativity to it. And filing for a federal mark. If I have time, I'll walk through filing a T's plus. T's plus means it's all electronic correspondence. The one thing that you look at when you see a mark, you know immediately what the product is. When you see those two apples up there, you know what those are? What companies?
Apple Records or something, right?
Right? Apple
Yeah.
Records. Do you know why we have the Beatles on iTunes now? In 1978, Apple Computer was sued by Apple Records when they first just started. There was an $80,000 settlement with a promise that Apple Computers would never get in the music business. 1984, they produced the first Mac. When you turned it on and made a tone, they were sued again. That was a $23 million settlement. And then iTunes came out in 2003, 2007. Steve Jobs gets out there and says, we are going to have Beatles on iTunes. Found out in 2010, the settlement was $500 million. Now Apple Computers can use Apple any way they want. So you want to know the value of a
You
trademark.
should have bought Apple on
And down the bottom, he's familiar, that red circle with a red dot in the middle, what is it?
Target.
What do they sell?
Lots of things.
Lots of things. How about the one on the far right, bottom? Xbox. What is it?
Oh, that's right.
Game.
Again, it's almost like it's the noun for what it is, the purpose. A mark is not a noun, though. It's a modifier of a noun, an adjective or adverb. So a lot of people have George Foreman grills, but it was originally sold as Russell Hobbs. Minnesota Valley canning peas became green giant peas. National Lead Paint, when it came out that lead was bad, they changed the company name to Dutch Point. That's really nice. Dutch Point, they hate it. And then Brad's Drink changed to Pepsi because they discovered that pepsin exists in the stomach, and they wanted to advertise it as a soothing stomach remedy. George Foreman, that first year, he licensed his name to the company, made $127 million. Over the lifetime, $240 million. That is way more than he ever got boxing.
I watched him in an interview one time, and he says, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
But he's actually written a very good business book, too.
He's shrewd. He is a shrewd guy.
He learned a lot in that.
So we usually talk about trademarks as source identifiers. Basically, it allows the consumer to go to the source of the product they purchase, allows them to make a judgment on quality. So your customers basically are purchasing your product, whether it be consulting services or something that you build, based on the conception that the quality is there and you're going to return. That name means a lot. So companies really go after people who try to destroy that goodwill in the marketplace. Here's an example. This is on Airway, little restaurant. Had dinner there, and I noticed that she crossed out the name. And so I asked her about it. I said, how come you crossed out your name? And she goes, I had a cease and desist letter from a company that has a federal registration in Chicago called Big Bowl, Thai restaurant. So she had to go through and mark all of her menus off, had to drop her URL. But the lawyers for that firm in Chicago called her restaurant once a week to make sure that the employees didn't pick up the phone and say Big Bowl. They did it for months. Why would a company like that be that picky about how their mark's being used? Well, if you think about it, if there's a salmonella outbreak at Big Bowl, Dayton, Ohio, and they have national restaurants, people are going to associate Big Bowl salmonella, their business is destroyed. Kind of like Chipotle. You know, not all Chipotle suffered from it, but just one or two, it's all it takes. So companies do go after you. The types of marks, trademarks are usually the products that we sell. Service marks are the consulting, insurance, banking. Collective marks, unions, trade associations, and certification marks like Good Housekeeping or Energy Star.
How do they designate those last two? I mean, the first two, I know,
You add-
TS, TM, and SF.
The bottom two, I believe both of them are CM. You rarely see it, but I do not believe that you have to use it.
Yeah.
But it does give you standing in federal court, though.
Right.
But I don't think you use it. The kind of marks that we're familiar with, word marks, Bluetooth. Did you know Bluetooth was a trademark?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Design marks, what company is that? AT&T. There's composite marks that have both words and designs, and the bottom one is the slogan, expect more, pay less. That'll be Target. But then we have some unusual kind. Trade dress. There's also an industrial design registration that kind of qualifies for the trade dress. The Coca-Cola bottle, the Heinz bottle are both accepted as trade dress.
Blue meter yellow.
Yeah, one of the bottom ones.
That one make their meters yellow. And blue one in that one.
Color is.
Yeah.
If you look at the truck, the front end of that truck is a trademark. It's trade dress. So along with the color, if I took all the writing off of that and you saw it coming down the road, stop at your house, what are you going to think? I'm getting a package. So that's how powerful that color and just that rounded nose. There's, I would say sound. It won't play here, but the sound of the Harlem Globetrotters song, that's their trademark, yeah. And then motion. Can you believe the car doors just opening are trademark? Lamborghini is suing Aston Martin and I believe Mercedes for having cars that doors will operate the same way. And they're not suing them because of patents, they're suing them because of trademark.
It's easier.
Easier. So how do you create a mark? I mean, how can you be sure that yours is really going to stand out and be important in the marketplace? Trademark examiners go off of two things: non-distinctive and distinctive. Generally, generic and descriptive marks do not make it through the trademark examination process. Lawyers.com was rejected because it's merely generic. E-fashion for an online store was rejected because it's merely descriptive of what's being sold. The best marks are on the distinctive side, so we think about Verichuk, which is suggestive. Sort of like that Samson rope, strong. BlackBerry, arbitrary. Apple Computer, arbitrary. And then made-up words. Arby's is a made-up word. Those are the strong marks. They go through the process a lot easier. I'm not saying you cannot use descriptive marks. There are options to use it, but you lose a lot of rights when you get a trademark that's descriptive. So some other ones, Fanciful, Made Up, Exxon, Apple Computers, and Polar Refrigerators. Vision Center, so I tried to get a trademark for that, and they're like, we're not gonna do that, there's thousands of vision centers, so it was just merely descriptive of the product. You never want your mark to become a noun, though. How many times, hey, that looks like it's photoshopped, and somebody could have used GIMP, another software manipulation tool. But we're just gonna say, hey, Photoshop, any change to a picture was Photoshop. Kleenex, we all know. How about heroin and aspirin? Did you know those were registered trademarks for Bayer? Heroin was advertised as a non-addictive alternative to morphine back in the 1800s. And then, of course, everybody says Scotch tape. I don't have students coming up to the desk saying, I need some clear cellophane tape. They just don't do it. I want Scotch tape. So that's it's become generic, the problem. Federal marks require examination. The examiners are only going to look at a few things. One thing they do not look at is things outside the federal registrar. The applicant has to be used in a mark in interstate commerce. It'll last for as long as you pay the maintenance fees. You pay the maintenance fees every 10 years. That's why Sampson Road is still good, and the first time it was 1894. All disputes can be settled in federal court. You can seek damages in federal court. And you use the R with a circle around it. If you ever use the R with a circle around it and you're not on the register, it's a felony. That law got a little bit stricter a few years ago. Why should you? You're just telling everybody in the world that's my mark. This is in the marketplace, this is my product. You can file internationally, what they call Madrid. So if you're selling your product in other countries, you can file at the Trademark Office, one place for multiple countries, and you pay in US dollars when you have a federal registration. So it's a one-stop shop. You're going to pay for examination in all those different countries. It doesn't guarantee, like Apple in China, where they lost an iPhone here recently, if you read the news. And then finally, ability to file with the Customs Service. For every product you have, you can file a $190 registration where the Customs Service block importation of any product with your name on it. However, if you're only doing business in Dayton, Ohio, like her, she probably would want to get a state mark to register her name. All disputes are settled in state court. You can use TM and SM on your mark at state level. You cannot use the R. Hothead Burritos started in Kettering, Ohio. When they started the franchise, they went from state registration to federal registration, because now they're engaged in interstate commerce. But here's the problem: common law marks. The Lanham Act protects common law marks as much as it does federal registration. Use in commerce gives you strength, gives the mark strength. So if somebody filed today for Hothead Burrito, and let's pretend it's not on the federal register, but Hothead Burrito has been around in Ohio for 20 years, they could protest the file or the registration of a new Hothead Burrito, because they can produce documents showing that I've been using that in the marketplace for 20 years. We believe it's going to be confusing the consumer. So it can be used against you. So when you do a search, you're looking everywhere. But if you're rejected, it doesn't mean you have to stop using it. You just have to be prepared for the cease and desist letters. Because they'll find you. Daycare Center in Dayton spent $15,000 on marketing, advertising, signage. They got a cease and desist letter, had to destroy it all. So there's $15,000 out there. The examination process. Likelihood of confusion test. That's the phrase they generally use. The mark here has been refused because of likelihood of confusion. They give you the other marks that they believe it's going to be confusing with, that the consumer won't be able to identify where the source is, and they're not going to allow registration. It's a two-part analysis: sound, appearance, and meaning, similarities, use, and marketing, sum test. So they'll compare you goods. If you're still kind of fuzzy on it, it's very subjective. You can argue with your trademark examiner. Well, we disagree with you. You generally want to have an attorney do that argument, but they'll talk to pro se applicants. No problem. The majority of marks being filed are from pro se applicants, people filing themselves. Just, here's some examples. The ones on the right were rejected as confusingly similar. I Shine, Ice Shine, Cresco, True Cool, and Turb Cool. The appearance, Mellotronics, City Woman, City Girl. So it doesn't matter what gender you put up there, or Gas City and Gas Town, cities, towns, or suburbs. If I said gas suburbs, it probably would be rejected too. However, you will find similar words in those databases. There's Cadillac cars, and there's Cadillac dog food. Examiners look at the sophistication of the buyer and also if it's a sophisticated purchase. There actually was an argument made before the Trademark Trials and Appeals Board that said everybody who buys our product has PhDs. We do not believe they'll be confused with products that are in a grocery store. Anyone?
You remember the eyes on
Yeah.
case? Was that?
So impulse purchase. So one way to find out when you do a search is to try to find out where does the government classify your business. Critical intelligence. The trademark examiners do not look at common law marks, state trademarks. They don't do any searches beyond the registration and those people who currently pay for the registration. You'll see a lot of things called dead in the databases. They eliminate those in their searches. They don't care. We'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. It's like example here, Moose Juice beer. If I file today, it's been canceled, I would get it. It would go through the whole examination process. The examiner will send me a letter that says, nobody's got Moose Juice registered for beer, it's all yours. Well, Moose Juice went away because Moose had beer sued them. And they sued him so bad, it destroyed the company and no longer in existence. So even though that company was on the register, they weren't safe. The only time you're a little bit safer is after 5 years of being on the register, you can file what they call an incontestability. Meaning basically, if somebody comes in and challenges you in federal court, the judge will say, you had 5 years, why didn't you do it before? Skip over that one. The legal basis for filing, you must be using the mark, or you must make a swear oath that you're going to be using the mark in a year. You are allowed extensions, 3 extensions of 6 months apiece. You pay for those extensions. So really, you could go almost 2.5 years before you have to produce the specimens. And what specimens are is how you engage the consumer. That's the evidence they look for. I usually show the Nike homepage. That would not be evidence of use. That Nike homepage basically says, this is what we are, this is our store, and that's what the examiners say. That's just a storefront. It does not qualify for use because there's no engagement. So if you go on the pages, look at the shoes, see the price of the shoes, and put it in a cart, that's the kind of evidence that they're looking for. So if you're a consultant and you're producing a product, basically a page that would say, if you hire me, this is what you get. You don't have to have prices on it, but you basically have to tell them the service they'll get if you're hired. All of these are classified as a set. Classifications 1 through 34 are products, 35 through 45 are services. So if you have a name, you look in the acceptable identification of goods and services manual, you get a 3-digit number, you put your name with that number, and you can find out if anybody else has the same name in that industry. The cost. You pay per good or service. So we just found this out about a month ago. They really hate paper. And anybody who files paper for trademark registration is going to get a surcharge. It's going to be more than $600, it could be $700 per good or service. Or you could do T's plus, meaning it's all electronic, all correspondence electronic. I'm using their description, and it drops down to $225. If I file intent to use after a time period and it issues, I have to pay $100 for it to issue, so it's an additional fee. Examination, the examiner doesn't even see it until about 3 months. They don't make a decision after 10 months. You have 6 months to respond to the examiner's office action. That's basically like the one letter that said, we feel that this is likely to confuse the consumer, and you provide evidence that said, no, we do not believe so. Here's some evidence that our consumers are not confused. You can argue if you get rejected and go to the Trademark Trials and Appeals Board. You will need an attorney. I asked a trademark judge once, has any pro se applicants ever represented themselves in front of you? It's like a 3-panel judge, and she goes, yes. Did they win? None of them did. So there's an opposition period of 30 days. Even after you go through examination, there's people out there that has 30 days to object to the registration. They pay a fee of $180 or $380 to object. There's something called the supplemental registration. You know, we were talking about you can get a descriptive mark. That's usually where it goes. It goes to supplemental registration. The downside to supplemental registration, you will not be able to prohibit the importation of products with your name on it. You can use the R with a circle around it, but you lose a lot of the power of the federal registration. So if you're madly in love with your mark, you can go that route, but it's not as strong. You'll probably have a hard time protecting it. Like Fear the Walking Dead, it's a registration. I call them zombies. And people don't realize when they go in the databases, they haven't looked on Google, they haven't looked anywhere else to see if anybody else is using that mark or something similar. How common is the word? So you have to brainstorm. People who come, I sit down with and I show them how to do the search, generally lead with another mark. Because they really haven't looked deep enough. So don't get emotionally attached to your baby. Think of alternative spellings that might be out there. Look at all the international classes, because you're basically making a risk assessment. So when I file as a pro se applicant, I'm willing to gamble that it'll make it through that process. Or you can hire an attorney. And it's roughly about $2,000, maybe $3,000, depending on how much or how many goods and services you want to cover. A lot of small businesses, startups do not have that kind of cash, and a lot of them are pro se applicants. So, and then I'm going to show you how to use tests. When I talk about the creativity problem, alternative spellings, just look at juice. J-O-O-S-E-E. So there's more to search than just juice, juicy juice, for example. Homonyms, similar meanings. Am I using a phrase? What's the key word in this phrase? Is it cheesy or wheezy? Does punctuation play an important role? And transpositions. Pizza tower and tower of pizza to an examiner the same. So if an applicant came in with tower of pizza, it would be rejected. And compound words. So people will come up with a phrase, but a lot of people ram them all together and put them in the database. So when you start searching, I start with the goods and service manual to identify my classes. I go to a design code manual, which will give me the numbers to search for any kind of human being, shadows, you name it, it's in there. Then I use TESS, which is the Trademark Electronic Search System. All the examiners work from home. They also use the same database if their VPN system is down, because generally their search is called Xsearch. It's the same stuff. If they feel if it's slow, they'll ask to take it down. When you do a search and you get like no results, it may be that database has been taken down by the examiners. And they don't get a notification for it. So the best time to search is before 10 in the morning and after 7 o'clock at night. Basically when California closes. You're gonna look at business newspaper articles about product announcements. I even look at catalogs sometimes, and Google and Bing a lot. So, that manual will give me a couple of numbers. If I had a number for beer, it'd be 0.32, but I'm also selling beer mugs, 0.21. If I was going to file for both of those products, it'd be $225 if I was using T's Plus, so it'd be $450. Now, if I had a beer, wine, or something that all fell under the same 0.32, I'd only have to pay that once. So if your product is in that one class, and you have multiple products that continue to be in that class, you don't have to pay for each one. You just pay for that class. That makes sense?
You don't have to include every class so that you might manufacture.
No, it's a good point. Sometimes if you use your own description, you may get a letter that says, okay, we feel like you have multiple class products here. You owe us so much money. You can either do one or two things. You can pay for those additional classes, or you can ask the examiner to remove those. And you just pay for the one that you thought that you were going to do. But then you have to make a decision, what's the most important one? You know, so that's part of the problem. I always say, use their descriptions, they're pretty clear, they're pretty concrete, and they know how to figure out whether or not they'll register. Just, there's a class codes, and this is the only way I search, is using those brackets with an IC. There's something called coordinated class, which is CC. When you put a word in, a basic or a number in, it'll look at related classes, so you can be sure that you're covering your bases. For example, there's tennis shorts, tennis shoes, tennis rackets. Those were all different products, all different classes. So if I did a coordinated search for tennis shorts, I could also see if there was anything out there for tennis shoes and rackets. Never use the structured form. Never use the user form. Always use the free form or the browse dictionary. It'll tell you, the browse dictionary is going to be used for like iPhone, because all of a sudden I'll see all the different iBeds, iTrees, all in one list. Tests will terminate after 10 minutes of idleness, where you have to go all the way back out and log back in. It will save your search if you're on the same computer. Design features. They look at the significant design elements and elements they consider significant. My favorite one is, if you look at the logo, you can kind of see a shadow. So if they were classifying this, they would classify it with letters and shadows. There'd be two design codes assigned to it. And here's an example of a design code. It's usually 6 digits. If you have multiple design codes like baseballs and softballs or swordfish, you notice the word mark is not included. A lot of times they'll search the logo separately from the word. If they have the problem with the word but not the logo, they'll send you that message that says, your logo is great, the wording is what we have problems with. We're going to change things. Line you have to reapply.
The more features you have, does that help your pen?
You're fine, no. If you think about impression. If I just look at that and I'm impressed, whether it's an outline of something like a crest, and then I see a really detailed crest, the examiner's going to look at the impression. A lot of the examiners who do logos are fine artists. All trademark examiners are attorneys. They all have law degrees. So, just a heads up. And then some of the examiners put in what they call pseudo-marks. So if somebody files for the logo with a black cat, they'll actually put in black cat as a pseudo-mark. It's not consistent, so you can't trust that by doing a word search. I really need to just do a design search. If you would look at FedEx, one of the elements that people miss usually is the arrow. See it? So even though it's a word mark, there's also a design element. Some people pointed out the spoon, but if you look at the record, it doesn't have spoon in it, so. The operators, basic truncation, phrases, parentheses, truncation of dollar sign, question mark, and asterisk. Asterisk is used constantly by examiners, same Boolean operators. Some of you might be used to adjacency and pattern matching. That last search, we'll look at a little bit more in depth. The basic index is indexed a number of ways, and you'll always see asterisks around the word. Sit down and do a good search. So if I did a search for active in the basic index, do you think it will retrieve inactive? Nope, it does not. Would a search for one step retrieve the number one in step? No. Unless the examiner put in a pseudo mark and spelled it out. How about a search for technocrat with a hyphenation, or the hyphens? Would it retrieve just the word technocrat? No. The hyphen is a searchable character. So, the other thing to think about is foreign translations. Yes?
What about if you have a word run together versus separate words?
It wouldn't matter, because they'll break them out.
Okay.
They'll do a search for the compound word, and then they'll also break them out. So, the little changes that people think they can get around usually don't work. If you're trying to connive a little, you might want to move on. Actually, you do searches because Toro Rosso and Red Bull to a trademark examiner are the same words. One's in Italian, one's in English. So dog, including the BI, TI search, retrieves all the different languages, and even my sheet in there. Phrase searching, save money, live better, there's Walmart. So there are a lot of logos in there, and sometimes you also have to think about, could your name of your business or your product be considered a slogan? You might go in there and search it that way. It's better to use adjacency, even in the bottom. Don't with apostrophe is better search as don't with an empty space and a T in quotations. Yeah, weapon of choice. I'm not going to go through these. Just go through them. You will see the examiner searches have an asterisk in the front and in the back. Why do you think so?
Anything is before or after?
Right, and if it's connected or a compound word. So they're looking at anything. The results internally too, the LE and the KN, philology and technology, they get very creative in their searches.
How about where you're using mine's Coltech, TEK versus TECH or TEC?
Actually, I'm going to do something where you'll see the way I formulate a search for the C's and the K's and the Q's. So typical newbie search, they put in one word, another word. And if you're lucky, they are using BITI, but generally it doesn't work. Canadian adjacent geese gives you 0 returns. Canadian geese only gives you 1, and then you get no returns that have Canadian goose in the database. Pattern matching. This is how you search. You just said about Trek or tech. You'll see it right here. That's the search. That is the search for juice. Let me walk down. So what they're doing in this is they're looking for 2 vowels, either 1 or 2. The question mark would be the hyphen, if there's absolutely a hyphen in there. Because people get creative. The C and the S. And then they'll have another vowel at the end. They know it could be Y, it could be E, or it might not even be anything. And then they'll add the product. 32 is beverages. So it will actually find all of these, and since I'm using that BITI in the brackets, it'll also find Saftig. You ever heard that word? It's Norwegian, for juicy. So it'll pull that up in the database, and it's in there. And it will find the hyphenated JU-C. You can go into something called the trademark system document retrieval, and you can see their searches. So if you have a word that you really don't know how to put together, I suggest type in just the word and look at some of the current records to see how an examiner formulated the search for that word. It's not going to be all consistent because they're all individuals and they do everything differently. But it's one way to kind of get an idea of how it's being searched.
It's the air conditioner.
Oh, I feel like, oh no, I ran, I can't move my lawn. So I'm going to do a pattern matching for tough track. You should be able to pull it up, right? Just by hitting. We'll do a little tour. I'll show you where some of these are. How many people have been to the USPTO website? Do you find it easy to use or difficult?
It took me a while to get into it, and I didn't feel confident that what I searched for, that I had everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not a great database. No. The best and easiest way is just to use quick links to get to most things. Some people have talked about patents. Let me show you how to get to the place you really need to go. So we're going under quick links, on this patent search, issue patents. When you're at this page, go home like ET. Because now both databases, the applications and issue patents are there. This is the database that will go away next year. And it also gives you a link to the searching by class. But also, we did a search, another one. And it's in that, my card is in the handout. This is the University Library's homepage. You have a direct link to a page I created for the patents and trademarks. If you're just at this page, just go to Research, Patents and Trademarks. And I have a listing of all the patent databases that I generally use. I generally use Spasnet. Have you ever heard of Spasnet? It's the European Patent Office database. It has 90 countries in it, where the United States only has one. And when you do patent searches, you need to look everywhere in the world. So Spasnet is a great database. It has machine translation, so if you pull up a Chinese or Korean patent, you can get a machine translation for it.
What is it spelled,
It's espacenet.com. It's here, under databases. The, I'll bring that up so you can see it. This is what it looks like. It's a wonderful little database, but supposedly the new one coming out from the USPTO will be better. It will include about 40 countries, but they're going to be, if you take the big five, like United States, European Patent Office, Japan, Korea, and China, you've got about 85% of all patents that are issued. So you get a pretty big search just by looking at those countries.
when you said E-space, I put E in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Ladasha.
Or you look for a trademark, see what's up. So I'm going to go to the trademark link. This is just the easiest way. These are the ones that are commonly used. I have the acceptable identification of goods and services. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to look for And it's the new one. If you use the one that's on the USPTO website, it's still linked to the old system. And this one's much easier to use, and you actually get better search results. So if I was doing hiking, should be a search box. Maybe I will have to go to the USPTO. The quick links. Thanks. It's down here at the ID manual, if you see it. You'll see the difference.
It looks like a government site.
It just says a little.
So, I'm gonna search for,
Your eyes gloss over when you look at
My white space.
so here's tourism. The number that you're writing down, medical tourism services. This is one here, the class number, there's 3 digits. So public relations, promoting tourism in a particular country, class 35. Almost all of these are services. The only product is number 16, printed periodicals in the field of tourism. So if my business was tourism, but it also included brochures or books that I put together of countries I visit, I would classify to 16 and most likely 35. So I pay twice. Now for search, let's say I have a globe as part of my name. You can search the design code manual and see if globe works. Celestial bodies, and these would be the poles. And you notice that there's sun rising and setting. Those are 2 different interpretations. So if it's bright, you know, it could be a rising sun. If it's orange, it could be a setting sun. Now I'll do search. So I'm at the test database, and the ones that you want to use is the free form and the Browse dictionary. I'll go to I. Everybody wants to put an I in front of something. And here, if you go forward and backwards, you can see all the different I, bedroom, I. So you can see how the word's being used, how many times. These are actually hot links that would pull up all of the trademarks for those. You know when the bombing in Boston happened, that phrase, Boston strong? Usually after some big event, people file for marks on that title. Shock and awe was one of the first Iraq War. Somebody actually filed shock and awe for hot pepper sauce. Boston strong, though, was rejected by examiners because they said it was too generic. So sometimes, if you get an idea from something you hear out there, you got to be aware that the examiners do consider its use and how broadly it's used. Somebody filed Boston strong for coffee, and I believe they got it.
See a gym or something like that.
Yeah. They tend to kind of hem and haw on those kind of marks. So I'm going to put together our business 035. I'm using CC, that's that coordinated class. It's going to look at related industries. You said Trek or Tech. It's a very similar search. Begin with an asterisk, T, a vowel, and then I'll put in quotations, C, K, Q, or X. Anything that makes that kind of sound.
IH.
And I'll close it with a BI, comma, TI. I will also have another asterisk at the inside. So, can you see how that search looks? Would you have searched this way for truck? Probably not. But this is how the examiners search, because they're looking sound alike. So
It's
to
a
them,
calculus problem.
all of those, I know. Let's see what we find. Zero through five CC.
Another quote.
Ah, I missed the quote.
Yeah, it is programming.
So BRS is the search engine. So, do I want to look for that name? But of course, this is pulling up anybody and everybody who's applied for a mark. One of the ways that you get rid of marks is by adding not dead. And that will exclude anything that has been stopped payment. Let's see how many we reduce it. Almost in half. And then you can see words like analytics. That's nothing that I'm looking for in that combination. So I can also add another not. I'll go on. Search. And do a simpler one. This is for dog products. The reason I want to show you dog products, there's one down here. There's a mark that was allowed. And the examiner sent them a letter, because you have to respond to them in 6 months. The applicant did not respond in time, and the examiner abandoned the application. When you hear the abandonment, you can reinstate, then you only have 2 months to do a reinstatement. And the reinstatement is the same cost as the original filing. So you want to respond in a timely fashion to the examiner when you see these, what they call office actions. They're simple. How do you find out if you have an office action? You can find that out with TSDR. This will pull up all the documents. Do not photocopy your license or anything personal. My boss is in this database talking about her vacation in the Caribbean. And I printed it off and showed it to her. She filed for a mark called no shelf required. The documents over here gives you a listing of all the correspondence. So this will show you how they did the design search, the drawing, example, the application. This is relatively new. I'll do more documents there. Through the process. They're warning people about the database is not working with Chrome or new Firefox product. You have to really use Internet Explorer 11 in order for it to work properly. So, remember I talked about the egg search? This is what you're looking for, egg search summary. It'll give you the documents exactly how you're going to search for that name and that word. Here's an example of the pseudo mark that they created. Lost my little- Or if it froze up.
You, uh-oh. Find it?
No.
Hit the escape button once, maybe it's,
I'll have to do it here.
is it back?
Nope.
Holy moly. These computers in here are,
Well, the last thing I was going to show you was Trademark Trials and Appeals Board. You may have seen it. It's in your handout. There's a little sheet for horse Google. Very bad idea. This is what- That's the screen I was looking for. The first one I tapped was the trademark document retrieval. The TTAB will get this tab over here in the far right will give you whether or not somebody opposed the mark and whether there's any proceedings. I like to show Wright State. Remember, how many people remember Rowdy Raider, the Viking? You know why we got rid of him? They did say they didn't like the way he was like Vikings or raping and pillaging. No, it was because we were sued by somebody. We were sued by Lucasfilms, who objected to the mark that we were trying to register. And it wasn't just for 1 year, it was 6 years of court that George Lucas got. He's one of the biggest suers that you can believe for his products. Don't even think about using anything in Star Wars. And finally, when it was settled in 1998, that's when we got Wolf. His objection was from the film The Last Crusade and the Vikings that were associated with it, and also Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Raiders' name, and the way it was swooping. So, if you run across a mark and you think, I don't know, and you see that the person that owns it or operates it is a larger corporation, you want to go. You want to run. Just don't even go there. Because whoever has the most money wins this. Some people, it's become common for people to hire trademark trolls. Now we've had patent trolls. Now we're getting trademark trolls that are reporting this to small businesses, basically fleecing them like usual. Give us $600 and we'll allow you to continue their use of that mark.
I get the Chinese thing all the time. They're looking at, giving somebody
Here's a,
name.
here's a good tip. Before you file for a trademark, file for the URL. Because there's people out there sitting, looking at the trademark database every day for new registration, because when I file, it'll appear immediately. And they'll register the URL and, well, I was gonna go back to the website.
Sure.
One quick question again. Most of what you're talking about is trademarking the company. What
No,
about
business names are not trademarkable. You are protected by incorporation.
Okay.
It's trade names. We're only talking about the product or service that you're providing. It's trademarkable. So people do try to file for their business name and they'll be immediately rejected. You know, they'll send you a letter that says basically it's unregistered.
So you actually have to file for a product or service
Right.
that you're providing, not
But
a
if-
business.
Right, if you currently have, let's say, a consulting service, you can file as long as you have some evidence showing how the consumer makes contact with you and what service do they get. So you can register that with no problem. If you're not ready, you can file that intent to use, and you have a year to file. Or show the evidence of proof, or you can extend it out 3 times for 6 months. So that gives you a little cushion to come up. So the TTAB, basically, this will probably come up blank. Let's say if you get a blank when nobody's opposed the mark. If I do a search, if you want to find out if the company sues a lot, we do a search. And it's interesting what Wright State sued about. They don't have too many, but they sued Dow Corning. A gentleman who had barbaric wear. And then here we are the defendant against Lucasfilm. This is basically because of Rowdy Raider. And you can see how long the correspondence went on. So they were beating Wright State basically. Now, I don't know how much the attorneys got, but they got a lot of money. If you ever have trouble, I'm more than willing to sit down with you and work one-on-one, going over this again. I cannot perform searches, I'm not an attorney. It's considered legal advice if I do provide searches for people. I can tell you that, oh, you might want to replace that valve, you know, or you might formulate, make sure you put your asterisks. I can do things like that, but the execution of the search has to be done by you.
Sometimes it's okay, but not the actual search.
I mean, that's what we're educated. Another example is the trademark examiners told us, the supervisory for quality control said, tell your patrons to claim color. Color messes it up. If you change color later, you have to file for a new mark. If your mark is going horizontally and all of a sudden you start using it vertically, you have to file for a new mark. Small changes like that have a major impact on registration. So the colors, if you leave it black and white, you can have whatever colors you ever want.
So you want a trademark that you can use vertically, horizontally or vertically, that's two.
That's two registrations.
Two registrations, all right.
So when you say black and white, just black and white as opposed to grayscale?
Grayscale, I mean, if it's black and white, just, but don't like say, in your application, don't ask, say, I want brown. Because later, if you want to change it to tan, you'll have to file it. The trademark database. Claims, called T's. It only takes 10 minutes to file. You want to see it? So under quick links, you're looking common forms. The form I'm using will be called T's Plus. That's basically meaning that I'm gonna use their descriptions for my goods and products. That's the 225. If I wanna use my own description, I can do the T's reduced fees, but be prepared if you have more than, if they think you have more than one product, they'll send you a bill. And if you don't pay it, you're abandoning your application. And T's regular form generally is for larger corporations that got a lot of stuff going into it, like ownership and such. The first thing they'll ask you is, are you an attorney filing this application? Of course, I'll say no, I'm pro se. I can save this application at the very end so I can come back on the same computer and pull it up. Then it's pretty straightforward. They're going to ask for the owner of the mark, they'll ask me if I'm a U.S. citizen, which I'll say yes. But if, as I'm filing for an individual, who owns this mark? I do, not my business. If you want the business to own it, you want to file as a limited liability corporation or wherever how you're registered incorporated. A lot of business divorces involve somebody who owns a mark who refuses to let the new person who took over the company to use it. And they're in a perfect right to do it, so.
It's also an asset to your company as well. You can sell that as a separate part of your company.
And that's it, everything, your patents, your trademarks, your copyrights for your manuals, all of that IP is a portfolio that you can, it's actually what's being purchased. You know, the capital stock that you might have, machinery, that gets to be bought, but the capital stock, I mean.
Is it a good
intellectual
idea
property.
to like, you kind of make me wonder, should I bequeath it to some? Be very clear about who you bequeath that.
Right, it's inheritable property.
Yeah.
So it goes part of your estate. Your trademark will be inherited by somebody who's, you know, if you own it individually. So it's more so a purchase your company.
So the patent is different, right? The patent you have to have an inventor versus owner.
You can have an assignee, but independent applications where just the inventors listed are quite common in the database. Again, that's inheritable. The gentleman who just got into the Glock, you know about Glock pistols, you ever heard that? He, even though there's a Glock company, he owns every single one of those patents himself. The company does not. He's not listed as a sign. He has a licensing agreement with his own company.
Smart.
One way to go.
You want to sell something, you can sell something without having to sell the entire company.
Right.
Or get some
License.
license.
So I'll put in address, city, Dayton, Ohio, United States, license code. And phone number. Anything with a red asterisk is required, so you don't have to give them your phone number. You do have to give them an email if you're in T's Plus. And here's what makes it T Plus. I authorize the USPTO to communicate with me via email. Web address if you want. It will tell you if you mess up. Last name, first name. You want to make sure that you read every page. All of us writing means something, so a little warning.
Do they want you to put it?
No.
You know, so to go out and help get
Every
Hi.
Oh, individual. That's why. That's my problem.
the figured it would flag you on that.
Yeah. I don't want to go too fast. Foreign nationals cannot file a trademark, they have to hire a U.S. attorney. It's optional. As you go along, it tells you, you don't have to talk the number, but usually it lets you go. Now, my mark is going to be quack quack. And let's say along the way, I'm speeding through this like now, and I type it in like that. And I don't pay attention. That is what's going to be registered. If I want everything lowercase, I have to be lowercase all the way. This is just for a word mark. If I was doing a special form, which basically means the logo, I'll be uploading a JPEG or PDF. You want to make sure it's a clear image of your logo. Don't take a picture of it on top of the table with all those marbling, because that becomes blank mark. People do that all the time. So. But the big thing is just make sure, double check, triple check that you've got it spelled correctly and how you want it to appear. If you want it to be one word, quack quack. That's how we do it. And you can see it preview image. I'll show you. Okay, that's how it's going to be registered.
It's gonna be in that font as well, correct?
That font. Fonts really don't matter unless you declare it, and that would go to a special one at the top. It'd be more of a special form. It'd be more of a logo than actually a word. So the two involved. Like so an example there, Coca-Cola, it's Spencer and script. So they have an image of it. When people ask me, should I register my logo or should I register my word mark? And I always say the same thing. What's the most important right now? If you can't afford both of them, which one's the most important one? Because if you get the logo and down the line and change something, but if you're consistently going to use the same word over and over again, that word might be the best one to register. The additional statements, sometimes will have you disclaim things. So like if I included quack, I could say, no claim is made to the exclusive right to use quack, only as it appears in the mark. Sometimes you'll get a little office action says you need to disclaim this. Now here I have to add my goods and service. Just basically do a search. So it's educational videos. It's going to give me a listing of different classes. Let's say I like the first one. And I'll insert check entries, and it's going to ask me, what is the field of your production and distribution of videos? It's education. And I'll insert, and there it is selected. I have to file 1B because I do not have specimens to upload. So this is an intent to use. I understand that I'm intent to use. And I'll sign filing status. Now I can go to the next page. It'll give me all of my form as it's filled out. I'll continue. Gives me my fee, my declaration. Be aware there / Donald Duck / That's the legal signature format that we're looking for. I'm that duck. Phone number. Sign. And validate. This is where I can download the file. They'll ask me to put in my email one more time. And then I have to read the important notice. I have read. Basically, it tells me I'm not going to get any refunds. And I'm going to pay. And I'll put it in my note. Boom, boom, boom.
Thank you, we have you on
Less than 10
file.
minutes.
Thank you, we have you on file with your data.
You can pay as a guest, or you can create an account. Usually the larger firms will do the create an account. Generally, you're just okay as a guest. As I finish this, if I pay probably in 3 or 4 minutes, I can do a search and test for my mark, and it will be there.
Is that gonna show up on public records?
Yes. Everything
So
is
even
sent.
applications?
Yes. Every correspondence, every email that you send to them, so you never want to divulge too much. If this is part of the product, this is trade secret.
Big formula?
Yeah, formula or something. This is what it's for, if you don't understand what I'm trying to do, those will become public. Any questions? About anything? Because I know you had a few questions about patents, I have a few minutes.
Well, I'm trying to do my logo,
Yeah, yeah.
bluegill. I designed
bluegill?
it, and then I had it done by an artist. So I've been using it for 10, 12, 14 years. I don't know, what year. But I want to make, because you need, and see people,
You said bluegill?
yeah.
I'm gonna go to the search, see if it has bluegill.
There's some bar down in New Orleans that uses bluegill too, but not this.
Well, see, is yours going to be a bar?
Yeah, that's where I'll retire down there.
So, it's not gonna give me bluegill, but it probably will give me
It may,
fish.
yeah.
And I will tell you, if you look at your t-shirt and your drawing, okay, it's a real depiction of the fish, but it's also a stylized picture of the fish.
Right.
So there's 2 codes that you want to search separately. If you look down the list, you'll see, fishes, sea lions, tropical fish. I don't think that is
No,
tropical
we
fish.
find it in Eastwood, right?
This is whale sharks. Look at goldfish.
Freshwater fish.
Yeah, freshwater fish.
Oh, okay.
But I don't see the style, there's a stylized category too. You can also do just a 0319 and put an asterisk at the end of it, and it would look at all of them.
Oh,
So you can't figure it out, but you know the category that you want to be in.
okay.
As long as you do that, search on file. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the
Thank you very much.
information.
Well, I mean, well, if you look under your start, actually,
Well, it's the number that you're looking for. It'll take you to a representative drawings to show you how those appear. So you can get a general idea of how category. You have to pay particular attention to shadows. There are categories for anything that has a shadow. Because that's just the way they're lawyers. Every detail of the image is really looked at.
So do you have a plan to talk about patent in the future?
Yes, September 7th, we'll be having a all-day seminar on intellectual property. The first part of the morning will be dealing with patents, also the patent process. I've asked them to talk about provisionals, explain what they are and what they don't do, and then in the afternoon, we're going to have another session of trademarks, hopefully. If not, I'm trying to get the FBI to come to give a presentation on how to keep things secure. stealing trade secrets and such. And then Anne Regal Crichton from the Dayton Public Library will be doing a marketing showing some ways to do certain things. And then finally, that should be it. That's pretty full. Most of these sessions will be an hour. It's really hard to talk about intellectual property and be concise in just merely an hour. My workshops are generally 2.5 hours.
Were you here or was it?
It will be at Wright State and the student. I will be sure to send out when we have the final agenda. I have enough room for 100 people. I'd be happy with just 50. I'm showing up, and they would be too, because they're actually, the USPTO is actually coming and bringing the people. So I'm hoping for an examiner. It's interesting to listen to how an examiner looks at patents, how they search and what they consider critical in an application. You'll be surprised. They say, I never look at the description. I'll never look at the drawings. Some of them just say, I just go straight to the claims, and that's all I look at. I really don't care what you said in your description. And some of them read every dot. Patent trivia, the largest application was 16 million pages. Human genome. And that was done as a preventative for people getting patents on the human genome. But it didn't stop people from getting patents on bits and pieces of protein. Have you heard of CRISPR? The fight between the University of California and MIT over the gene splicing techniques they came up with, they were really cheap. This is a huge one. It's an interference. Whoever can come up with the evidence that thought of it first wins. And they said billions of dollars are involved in this. But they're also opening themselves up to everybody else in the world who can find evidence that before they filed, this idea was already out there. Then nobody gets it. The application canceled. Right now, MIT owns it, but they asked for accelerated examination. But California filed first. So if the interference goes through what it usually does, California will actually get the patent.
What is the law now? I mean, I know it just changed here recently.
They filed before the change.
Okay.
Now it's first to file.
Right.
That's why secrecy is critical now in patents.
And that's first to file a provisional or
non-provisional.
So it doesn't matter which one you file, just whoever files first.
You have to realize the provisional note does expire in a year.
Right.
So you generally, like 2 months before it's expired, really get your act together and get a non-provisional ready.
You sent me text?
Are you thinking about filing provisionals? I think locally, an attorney will charge roughly about $900 to $1,000 to do a provisional. I always recommend getting an attorney to do a provisional just for that reason, because they have to be exactly a match. And it's critical in the way they're written. A lot of people handwrite them and send them in. It qualifies as a provisional, but you can't claim it, because it's going to be different than the non-provisional file.
Why would you do it?
Well, for a lot of independent inventors who don't have a lot of money, they want to be able to talk to people, and you can use patent applied for. And so when you talk to people, they know I got a patent application in, so they know they can't steal it outright.
So what you're going to protect the provisional filing and the final filing has to be the same thing. Has to be.
I can't stress that enough, because we talk about it every year. People always have questions for us. And I have a lot of independent inventors who are writing themselves. There was somebody down at the Entrepreneur Center. They sent me the provisional. I don't know why, but they sent me the provisional, and I took a peek. And I run back and said, get a lawyer, because they were missing half the stuff that they needed to have in there. And if they submitted it, and then all of a sudden filed a non-provisional, they would never have been able to do produce the first filing. I mean, it's a deed of property, and of course, it's gonna be pretty, when you go to court, you know, you're assuming over the claims that you filed. So if you want an earlier filing date, so you can sue people earlier, like Apple suing Samsung, because that patent didn't issue until 11 years later. And then they were able to go back to the filing date and sue everybody who induced them.
My brother was a witness, he's an industrial designer, so he was hired by Samsung to go in and he lives in San Francisco, but he was sequestered and everything. And so when he was walking down the hall one day, he knew a lot of designers, obviously, and one of the Apple guys was there. He goes, "Oh, Sam, how are you?" And his attorney yanked him out of that room. They weren't even allowed to talk. And right before he was brought up to testify, they settled that part. And so he didn't have to do it. But boy, was he paid well. Whoa. Just kidding.
So you know Monarch.
Thank you
So
very
you know
much.
Monarch?
Thanks.
Mark?